Good morning. We're letting people join in. It's at the top of the hour. And we're going to wait about one more minute and then we're going to formally start.
And I try not to forget to introduce myself again.
Yes. Well, I started the recording. I shouldn't have started it yet, but I did. So
That's-
people who are listening to the recording, ignore the first minute and a half. Okay, as soon as people joining slows down a bit, we will get started.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to start. Good morning. I am Sherry Prupis. I'm Director of Teaching and Learning with Technology at the VCCS, and I'm also the Project Director for the Digital Accessibility Compliance Initiative. And as part of the work that we're doing is we are helping our faculty and staff throughout the Virginia Community College system develop the skills that are needed so that materials at the moment they're created are accessible. It's much easier to create accessible materials than it is to remediate them. Today we're focusing on Outlook email. All of us send emails and we want to make sure that they're accessible. Here with us today is Paige Durham. She is the retired senior instructional designer from Germana and our accessibility expert. Paige, I'm turning this over to you.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another session. Please use the Q&A for any questions that you might have. Sherry may be putting things in the chat, but that's just informational. We will also be recording this, and you will get a copy of the recording as well as a copy of my slides and some additional documents within the slides that will help you when you're going to create Outlook emails. So, well, my computer monitor just did the weirdest thing, so give me 1 second. It literally about fell off the stand. Okay, that's not cool. That's a new challenge. So sorry. So here we go. So a little bit more about me. Just Sherry said, I am retired from the VCCS. I'm currently doing a little contract work here, there, and everywhere. And so I am here today as an accessibility, not an expert. I do not I'm not an expert in anything except maybe talking. I might give myself that credit that it is one of my greatest skills. So when you are looking at this slide right here, one of the things that I want you to kind of be aware of is as we're moving through this today, please think about, well, I didn't know that, or I'll have to remember that, and kind of make a mental note. But don't take any notes because I am going to try to provide you with things like a checklist. And I'm sorry, my computer monitor is just weird. A checklist that you can use after the fact. So I'm going to demonstrate a lot of the tools within Outlook today. So I want to make sure that we have enough time. So I'm going to move on through my presentation. So why is this even important? Well, A, it's a federal mandate, and so therefore we have to do it. But it's also because we have so many people in our society who have been affected in some way by a disability, and it can affect how they're reading the emails that we send. I am all about pretty things and making, these beautiful images, but now on top of creating all of this beautiful stuff, I also now have to think about, and I did before, excuse me, how does the viewer who isn't doesn't have may have a vision impairment able to see this beautiful document or this beautiful image or this whatever it is that I have created? So that's kind of the first step, is thinking to yourself, what is it that I would see if I had vision impairment or hearing or other disabilities? So we know that people use screen readers, they use magnification tools, and a lot of people use voice recognition software. So And every email that you send, it is your opportunity to include or exclude colleagues or community members. So the choice is yours, but we want to make it the right choice. So Sherry's going to launch a poll, and I kind of want to know where we are as far as um, what and how you feel about this whole topic. So the questions are: where are you starting from? Are you, sorry.
Can I say I'm so excited? This is my first poll that I've ever launched.
And you know I was going to give you always me with the challenges. Um, I want everybody to feel very confident. Sherry, when you think a lot of people have voted, go ahead and share the results, please, because I can't see it. So where are you starting from? And notice that my little my fantastic image for those of you that are looking um, has the runners all in different places, and that's really kind of where we are. Just learning new to accessibility. Love it. Love it. And I'm glad, not sure. I also like somewhat confident. So now we know that there are some people here who are kind of aware of things and maybe a good resource when you have questions and you can't get in contact with someone who, like me or Sherry, but I'm always pretty available. And I don't know why today it's decided to do this. It's Friday. It's tired too. All right, let's move on. So let's look at this problem email. Okay, where I started super simple. Subject, FYI. Hi, everyone. Please see the attached flyer for details. The event is Friday at 3 p.m. in the Blue Room. Click here for more information. www.company.com/events. Thanks. Image button. So I'm hoping that you all just went, there's a lot wrong with that because that's the correct answer. Um, I don't even know if you can see the words that are on the image. I'm kind of hoping that you can't. Don't try too hard. That's the whole point. It's very small text on an image. And I want you to make sure that, you can spot some of these problems. So now let's uncover what those problems are before we begin to fix them. Starting with a vague subject line, FYI, there's no context about the email's content or importance level. So when you're writing an email and you think about the subject, be very specific. It doesn't have to be long, just needs to be specific, not FYI. Critical info on image only. Screen readers can't access the join link because it's in the image. And the image also said what time and where it was, which you couldn't read because it was teeny tiny. Non-descriptive links. Instead of having a descriptive link, we had the click here, which doesn't tell a user where the link leads or what they'll find. And that may not be important for those of us who aren't visually impaired, but someone using a screen reader needs to know where that link is going rather than click here. Missing alt text. Was no alt text on the image, not that you could see that anyway, but screen readers need to be able to access the image and understand and be able to read what the image is portraying and how it's important to the either the email in this case, or if you were in a PowerPoint or a document, it needs to be descriptive. Essential image information. So there are, again, I said that tiny text inside that image was a critical detail that you were not able to read. And then the last thing was color dependent. I made that button green for a reason because it excluded colorblind users. So, and in the end, what does this mean? Someone using a screen reader could not even join the meeting at all. So there are 6 core principles that we're going to go over today. Structure, links, color, language, images, and attachments. And I also want to say color contrast. I prefer a dark background with white text because there that is it's easier on my eyes, obviously because now I have to wear glasses because I've hit that age of life. And the other thing is some of you may prefer a white background with dark text. It doesn't really matter which way you choose. You just have to remember there needs to be a very high contrast between the two. So let's move on and talk about are there tools that will help us? The answer is yes. So there, many of you may still be in what I call classic Outlook. And if you're still in classic Outlook, this is the process that you're going to use to find the accessibility checker. Now, you may not have known that it even existed, but I'm going to show you how to find that. So you're going to navigate to the Review tab in Outlook, find the Check Accessibility button, review each item, and then use the built-in help, and then rerun it to make sure that you have fixed it. So let me find my mouse and move all of the things that I have going on. And I'm just going to use this version of Outlook that I currently have open. And I'm going to actually show you a couple things. So if I go up here to the button at the top of the ribbon, and the ribbon is the row of tools at the top, I'm going to change this to the classic ribbon, even though I am in the quote unquote new Outlook. Now, when I do that, you're going to see that it changed what was here. And if I click on, let's open a new email to start with. And now you can see I have this email open. If I scroll over, here is my check accessibility option. And I can click on that right now, even though there's really nothing here. Well, there is something. I did leave this on purpose. Now you can see fix this, and it's this image right here that says that's very difficult to see because it's blue on black, which again is I did this on purpose so that you could see that the color contrast was a problem. So here I can just say Class Finder logo, and now I am done. So now I can choose check again, and it's telling me the color contrast is too low, and you can increase it by changing the color of the font or changing the color behind it. So I could flip this to white, and then it would be probably it would not be show up as a color contrast issue. So that's where you find it in classic Outlook. Now, if you're like me and you prefer the new version, then your ribbon may look like this, which is we call this the simplified ribbon. So you're going to make sure you have a message open. Then you're going to find the three dots, which is always a menu, and there's more options. And again, here you're going to click on the check accessibility, and that's where it's going to be. So in the presentation, I have both of those versions, either the classic version or the simplified the new Outlook version that you can use. Either way, you are going to find it in the ribbon once you open an email or once you start an email. I like the fact that it also gives you the show me how to fix this part. So when you are creating an email, do everything first. Don't worry about checking. You're constantly using the accessibility checker in order to see that. So now let's go ahead and grab some things here. And I'm going to throw them into this. I'm going to send this to myself. And now I'm going to run this again. This again is telling me that this image, well, first of all, it's huge now, is does not have alt text. It did not, however, bring up the next thing, or one of the things we're going to talk about is link validation. So I'm curious as to if it will pick it up if I do this. Oh, okay. So interesting that Microsoft is not highlighting that that link is not correct, and that and it didn't the button didn't work, copy and pasting, but you get the idea. There's a color problem. So when you are doing things like that, even though there is that accessibility checker, I also wanted you to be aware that sometimes it won't catch what you are trying or that you need to fix. So let's go back to the presentation. And here you can see this is the first version. This is Classic Outlook's instructions to find the accessibility checker. This is the simplified ribbon, or the new Outlook way to find the accessibility checker. We just did the demo. And now let's talk about alt text. Um, when you are thinking about and using alt text, it needs to be descriptive. It needs to relate to the material that it's going with. If it is just a pretty image, then you need to mark that as only decorative, so that those people using a screen reader, it just skips that part. And that way it doesn't kind of muddle up the information that you're trying to deliver. So here are some examples. Bar graph showing 40% increase in student enrollment from Q1 to Q2 in 2024. That's excellent. Also good. Faculty team photo, 5 professors standing in front of the new library entrance. That's, again, good alt text. Poor alt text is any file name. If you put an image in and it has anything .jpeg, .png, .pdf, whatever it is, that is not alt text. You must remove the file name and make the image descriptive. Anything that says picture of a graph, well, what is the graph of? How is that helpful? Is it not helpful? See image for details. That's completely unhelpful. If an image is important enough to include in an email, make sure that you describe it accurately. So I want to go back and I want to talk about how to write effective descriptions. All right, so many of us have lots of complex images that we want to include, whether it's in a document or it's in an email. So I'm going to show you what I do, and you may use Copilot for this. You can use ChatGPT. It doesn't really matter what artificial intelligence you use, but I'm going to add a file. I got to find one that's got a lot of stuff. Oh, this one right here. So this is an infographic. And I'm going to say, I need simple, not a complex prompt by any means. Now, if you can see that image, I'm not sure that you can. It's also a GIF, which means it moves, so it's animated on top of everything else. Now, when I did that, I purposefully said I need the alt text and I didn't give it any other parameters. Now, if you notice, that's a really long and very detailed description of the image. But alt text should be less than 150 characters. So this is a lot of information and it's all important. So you have a couple options here. If this information is truly important, then I might choose to put this information in the body of the email and not as alt text. However, if you notice the last question that it's asking me is, do you want this a short version? And I'll say, please make this 150 characters or less. It's 125, 150. You can go either way. And now we have a much shorter alt text infographic comparing ChatGPT, Perplexity, Grok, Gemini with their best use cases in writing research trends and tasks. So now you can see that that's a very different description than the other one. But you would have to determine which information is the most important. If you really wanted the infographic to portray the meaning, then you might want to use the long, and you could put this side by side. So let's add alt text to an image. So I'm gonna go back here, delete that. Hold on one second. Okay, so here we are back in Outlook again. And now I'm going to insert that file, the same one that we just looked at. If I can find it. Okay, now you can see that this is pretty small. And again, now that I've clicked on it, it's much easier to see. But it doesn't have any alt text. So I can do a couple of things. Let me close this for a second. If I want to add the alt text, oh, nope, sorry, I'm clicking more than I should. Oh, where did it go? Oh, there it is. So if you notice, I've now added it two different ways. I added it as an attachment, but now I also put it inline because I want to make sure that you can see that it says check accessibility. Now it's telling me that there, obviously the inline image needs a description. So now what I can do is I can go back, copy that information from ChatGPT, whatever, anyone you choose to use, and click OK. Now it's there. So now I have that information. But let's say I wanted to also put in the other information so that it is descriptive. Where did and I just put in there what it describes. So now there's the long description and the alt text description. So I can run a checker again. It's telling me once again the color contrast is too low, but that's just because of the one image that's in here. It's that one. If I get rid of that, it should fix it. So that's how you can add alt text. Oops. What? Well, come on now. If you right click on the image in the email, you can add it as add alt text by right clicking as well. So you can run the accessibility checker, or you can right click and add alt text that way. So that's one thing. Now, I said I was in the app. I'll get it out tomorrow. I was in the app of Outlook. So now I want to talk about the next thing with a lot of people have as part of their signature. So alt text, oh no, not that. So we did that. Adding alt text to email signatures, and this was online 365. So you're going to add the image as part of your signature. And then you're going to click on the three dots. Again, that's the menu. You're going to move over and click on the image that you've added, and then you're going to see an add alt text option to that. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing signatures. If I do this inside of Outlook, oh, no, not that. Let me go back. Share. And I click on settings. That's the first place you go. And signatures. And here is where you can see. So if I click on this and well, the picture's already here. And then I click on formatting options. You can see the add alternative text is here. I don't know where it just went though. Where did it go? Okay, I don't know why it's doing that. Let's do it this way. It's magically not working today. It won't let me add anything.
Paige, we see where it says add alt text, and then in a box it says this is Paige's card. The email is paige@classfind.com,
Oh,
and then
you
there's
can see that because on it is not anywhere on any of my
and then there's an
zillion
OK
screens.
button underneath it. So we see what you're talking about.
Okay, well, I'm glad. Perfect. Because that is not showing up on my screen anywhere. Thanks technology. So I was just going to make a new card, but let's go ahead and do something else. So I know this does not have alt text. Again, I'm assuming that there you see something that I don't.
Yes, so we see the logo for ClassFinder, and
Yeah.
it says add alt text to it.
Okay. Well, if I could see it, I could add alt text. But as it is, my computer has decided to make that invisible to me. Wait, maybe I found it. Here we go. All right. Maybe that worked. Praise. Yeah. All right. So then you would save that as well. So let me try that again. Apologize for missing a window, but maybe that happens when you have a 48-inch monitor. Now this should have alt text to it. So if I added this signature now, every time that I run the accessibility checker, I'm not going to have to worry about fixing that specific thing. Any images or links that you have need to be descriptive. For example, if you notice in this last link, it doesn't say www dot whatever. It says the link name and it is descriptive. So if you have an image or a link in your signature, it cannot be anything like HTTPS colon blah blah. It cannot be that. It needs to be a descriptive link. So all right, so that is how you add alt text to an email signature. So here we are talking about links, and I knew that was next. So click here for the agenda. Not very helpful. Should be view the March 15 Faculty Senate meeting agenda, not click here. Change this, which is a raw URL, to read the updated remote work policy for staff. Make it descriptive. Then you're going to highlight that entire text and make it a URL. And I'm going to show you how to do that next. So Here's your litmus test. Would your link make complete sense if someone heard it without any surrounding context? So if the answer is no, then you need to fix your link. All right. Da, 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 da. We're back in Outlook. So I'm going to type in click here for the, oh. Okay, that would not be appropriate. However, if we had something we wanted to attach, we could change that. Now we have the start of a link. So now I'm going to highlight all of that, and I'm going to go up to the ribbon. I'm going to choose insert hyperlink, and now I'm going to put whatever the web address is. So we'll just grab any old link, and then we're going to put that there, and we're just going to click it. It's not, but now you can see that it is a hyperlink. Now I chose to make all my hyperlinks purple. Many of you will see them as blue. It depends on if you picked a theme in your Outlook that will determine the color of your hyperlink. You also
Paige, can I highlight the obvious for a moment? If
Mhm.
you use a raw URL, https:// etc., the screen reader is going to read https://edtech.vtcs.edu/accessibility/ it's going to read that. And sometimes it's just a jumble of, yes, so here she's got the example of it. And so the person who needs the screen reader doesn't actually know what that link is for. So the descriptive link is much more helpful.
All right. So what I want to also show you, there's a second way to do this. So if I had the link and I highlight this link and I go up here to the, again, insert hyperlink, notice that I have two places. I have a display as and a web address. So if I wanted to just change this to display a Gamma presentation on, now I'm done. Now I have an appropriate descriptive link, and underneath that or in the back end is the actual hyperlink to that presentation. So you want to make, you can do it one of two ways. You can type out the description first, or you can put in the raw URL, highlight it, and then click on the link in the ribbon to make it a hyperlink. So you can change that in either way. You have two options to change links. But the test is if your link doesn't make sense, if you heard it, then you need to fix it. So that's a very easy kind of litmus test to do. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is something that it may be familiar to you or it may not be, but it's something that we need to think about. So structure. Many of us do things with bold or highlight, or please don't ever do this now that you know that you shouldn't. Highlight red text or red text and yellow highlight. Oh, that's horrible. That is that is not helpful to anybody who's reading it. So you're going to think about structure. So screen readers jump between headings to navigate. Sighted people use the scan for visual hierarchy and organization, but everybody can benefit. So when we're thinking about document structure or email structure, we're going to think about what it looks like. So headings, paragraph breaks, proper lists, not dashes and asterisks, or and then using the styles. So if So all of this is super, super important. So we have heading 1, 2, and 3, and you don't want to skip headings either. So if you start with a heading 1, then the next one you have to do is a heading 2 and a heading 3. So main topic, major sections, subsections, etc. So that's how you do that. But heading styles, you don't just want to make text bigger or bold. And because of the way that a screen reader operates. You want to make sure that your paragraphs are short, 2 or 3 sentences. Again, if you can be if you're a very prolific writer, and an email is probably not the place to be that, then you could always use generative AI to help you summarize what you want to say so that it is between 2 or 3 sentences, and make sure that there is a space between sections when you are writing an email. Using lists, again, using the actual bullets or numbers from the ribbon will also help make the content better. So let's take a look at where you can find the tools in Outlook for structure in an email. So I'm back in my email again, and I'm just going to copy and paste some information in. I'm just gonna. So we have some sample text, and that looks terrible, but that was what it's supposed to be. So now we can see, hey, okay, that's not great. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move that down. And then I'm going to highlight, actually, I'm going to move my cursor up. Oh. So now if I highlight this and I go to, it's going to be in the middle of your ribbon if you're in the condensed, but I'm going to switch to classic to make this a little bit easier to see. Now you can see the styles button. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on styles, and I'm going to choose heading 1. So now that's heading 1. Now I'm going to put a period there. And I'm going to say next. Oops. Except today I can't type. And now I'm going to choose heading 2. If I wanted to do a quote for any reason, I would use that style to do that. I'm going to leave it at head. Now I'm going to highlight these 3 things, and I'm going to go up to the ribbon again. I'm going to find where the bullets are, and I'm going to choose to make them bullets. And I'm not going to use an asterisk or a dash or anything like that. And then you're going to make sure, and obviously this is interesting that it doesn't tell you that there's no capitalization, and it's a horrible nightmare as far as reading goes. So when I check on the accessibility checker, there again, it's talking about color contrast. That just is because I'm reading blue on black, and that's why that is coming up. So keep in mind when you're building out your emails, think topic, paragraph, subtopic, paragraph, or bullets, and make sure that you put space between your thoughts. my mother would tell you that I was queen of the run-on sentence. So that paragraph actually may have looked like something that I used to write. I'm a slightly better writer now. So you don't want to have a run-on sentence in an email. Try to break up your thoughts based on what you're talking about. Now, I also want to make sure that you understand this is not just applicable to Outlook. This is for PowerPoint, this is for Word, this is for anything that you are building and going to deliver to anyone else to make it very, very clear. So I want to show you a little graphic that I actually was able to create using generative AI, which I was very pleased with. So heading 1, heading 2, body text, alt text with image, and a descriptive link. So that little image, which again, took me a little bit of time to have my collaborative AI partner actually make that correctly. So when you're doing these things, remember doing it from the beginning. We're not talking about going backwards and doing this is moving forward from today when you are creating emails. So let's look at kind of what we've done together. We've transformed, well, we didn't, but we should transform and make sure that our subject line actually says what we're talking about. Mandatory security training registered by March 2024. Text, link text enhancement, no longer using click here for registration. Alt text edition, making sure that we put in a descriptive text for the image that is within the context of what it is we are discussing. And if you notice that when we did those things, it really did make it a lot easier to understand and to view. So creating a checklist, descriptive subject line, clear headings, meaningful alt text, specific hyperlinks, accessibility checker, making sure that it says clear, and then color dependent information. Make sure that you are not displaying important information through color alone or bold text. So I have some questions, and you can use your reactions at the bottom of your screen. A thumbs up if it's true, a thumbs down if it's false. It's acceptable to use tables for email layout design. True or false?
I don't see a thumbs down.
You don't have a thumbs down?
No.
Then use the heart emoji for false, because why not?
Okay. And
There we go.
read the question again.
Okay, it's acceptable to use tables for email layout design.
Okay, thumbs
True
up
or
for
false?
true, heart for false.
Heart for false. Not that we love that, but it's at least the right color for me. The answer is false. Tables should not be used for should only be used for actual data, not visual layout. So now let's take a look at our fabulous email again, because we're going to wear this one out literally. Now, if I want to insert a table, I'm going to go up here to the top. I'm going to pick a table. Let's do 3x2. And what they're discussing, or what this question was meaning for you to think about, is if I wanted to put an image in here because I wanted text, I wanted like the image on one side and the text on the other, and it was all even and pretty, because that's, in my mind where it needs to be. A lot of times I could use a table, but a table needs to be used to show data, not for design. So when you are putting tables in, if you go over to the table options, you notice that there are some things that say header row, first column. These are important to a screen reader. So you want to make sure that you click on the header row and you give it a description as well as the first column so that it is clear. And if you notice, even in the ribbon where the table is, you have alt text. So you have to give your table a name and a description. So, attendance, or, uh, so now I have that information. So now I've already fixed part of the problem with the table by putting in the information. I'm going to go back here again. So if you choose to merge cells, be very careful with that, because that makes a screen reader a bit harder. It makes it harder for it to be clear to the listener of exactly what is in the table. So you have those table options that you can put in, but remember that the header row and the rows need to be descriptive. And if I go back to home and you can run the accessibility checker, but because I've already done the table thing, it's not going to come up. But if I hadn't gone ahead and put in the title for the table, it would have come up, and that would have been in the accessibility checker. So,
Okay. Paige, next question related to tables.
mhm.
Um, this one is actually an important one. I do it all the time. What about copying and pasting a part of an Excel spreadsheet, maybe just the totals that we want to share out? Is that going to be a problem if we copy and paste from Excel into an email?
No, but you still have to, you're still going to have to go in, highlight the table, and put in a title as well as a description.
Okay, and then
Because
the next,
if you copy the cells from Excel, it's still going to come to the email as a table. So you're still going to have to you're still going
so
to
you
have to
still have to
put
make
the,
sure you've got the headers and
yep,
all the comments. Okay, and then
yep.
the other question is two more. One is a little bit left over. What colors for colorblind if we're not really supposed to focus on red, green?
What do you mean by that?
Um, it just if we're doing something and we want to use color in addition to marking the header, and if we don't use red and green, what colors should we be doing?
Anything that is, it has to be a high contrast. If you don't
Okay,
understand high contrast, I will find you a, there's,
so you don't want light pink and light blue because the contrast is the same. So you may want a pastel color and a bright bold color, but we'll share that resource with you.
just a
And
minute.
then finally, the last one related to Excel is are we able to copy the charts? I get a pie chart or a histogram from Excel. What happens if I use that in an email? Does that
If
need
you're,
an
yeah, you're
alt
going to have to do
text?
alt text. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So I want to show you this website to take care of the color question. All right. So if you don't know, then you can come here and you can check. So if the foreground is uh, obviously white is FFFFF, and then you want to see the color. So you can decide whether or not it meets. Now notice that the box at the bottom helps you figure out whether or not. So I'm going to choose, and now you can see that that's a fail. So I changed the color from white to black and left the text as blue. But because of that, they can't see that link, Sherry. You have to recopy it. Um, because of that, you can change it. So now if I wanted to, I could drag this all the way over. And now it meets. So all I did was change the color. You can put in whatever you want to put in, whatever color you want to put in. And if you want to know whether or not it's contrasting and it meets the double A, which is what the DOJ is talking about, um, then you can come here and test that out. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that's what we're talking about when we're talking about high contrast and colors. So you don't want to, again, if I picked red and I pick yellow, you can see that that is a fail badly. So we don't want to have yellow text on red or the other way around. It doesn't really matter. If I want to use that red text, then I have to find something that will pass. Now notice this one. I chose black on purpose. Um, it passes for double A, but not for triple A. And if it's larger text, it passes both ways. So keep in mind that just because it passes one double A, it may not pass. So you may not want to choose a red. So if I chose a lighter red, I think that's what fix it. Now it all passes. So that's kind of a way if you could spend like I could spend like hours doing this because it's like fun, but we're not going to do that. So, all right, next question is thumbs up for true, heart for false. Alt text should be kept under 150 characters. True or false? I'm looking for, oh, there's the little thumbs. Yes, yay. That is true. That is correct. You can have 125, but 125 to 50 is the right amount. So, next question. Click here is fine if the surrounding context is clear. Click here for a hyperlink. Thumbs up for true, heart for false. And I'll stop sharing for a minute because that way I can see better. Sweet. Yes, that is also false. Next question. Color contrast only matters for images, not text. True, thumbs up. Heart, false. That is also correct. So yes, and all screen readers can easily read PDF attachments. True or false? That was a trick question. The answer is sometimes. And the reason for sometimes is because not all PDFs are scannable by an OCR, which is a text reader. Sometimes there are images, and images in a PDF are not accessible as far as a screen reader is concerned. So PDFs is another session. I'm just giving you this little taste of kind of what's to come. So these are the questions that I just asked you, just kind of as a review. So we have we've talked about several different things and our core concepts that we went over at the, we wanted to make sure we understand headings, structure, links, hyperlinks, or URLs, color doesn't just matter about color alone. It should not be color alone for meaning, but it also should be contrasting so that it is easily visible. Language, be specific. Try not to use a lot. Oh, and we all know how much higher education loves acronyms. When you are sending an email, if you have acronyms, you should always include at least one instance where the acronym is explained. I didn't get on to that earlier, but that's kind of should be, you should be used to that. Images, making sure that you have alt text, and attachments, when you're attaching them, making sure those attachments are also accessible. So that's a lot. And so now you have some kind of take home kind of homework, I'll call it. Well, we are in education, so I can call it homework. Um, so write conversationally. Write like you're speaking to someone. If you aren't sure whether or not they understand any jargon, make sure that you explain it or copy a hyperlink and tell them where they can find the information. Check it before sending by running the accessibility checker. But I've shown you today that the accessibility checker isn't always accurate and that it really is up to you to understand the rules of accessibility and test your content. So I'm going to give you a tip sheet um, on how to do this.
We have
So
a
I want
question on test your content. In email, there's a review read aloud. Is read aloud a good way to test that a screen reader can read something?
you can just know that if you do that, it may or may not work well, but it's always a good test. Again, this is not perfection. We're trying to get to at least a B plus, right, for our grade on accessibility. 100% would be awesome, but it's also honestly not really realistic right now. Um, so I want you to think about using the accessibility checker a few times and then taking note of what it does catch and what it doesn't catch. And then keep in mind that tools do change and do improve. So hopefully Microsoft will get a little bit better with their accessibility checker in Outlook, because I don't know if you all caught it today, but it only caught like two things that I put in there. Uh, Descriptive alt text, making sure that you clearly define. And if you're not sure or you have a really super complex graphic like I did, then use your collaborative AI partner, Copilot or ChatGPT, to help you with that alt text. And also remembering to use things like click here. And if you're not sure how to describe a link, then ask AI to help you describe a link. It's more important for you to get the information across clearly than what kind of tools you use to get there. So here is your take-home reference guide, and I'm going to give you the link to this entire presentation that has these in there. And I'm going to there you go. And you have to reshare that link, Sherry. In that link, you're going to also see that you have some steps to ensure that your content is accessible. And then this is kind of a reference guide, how to find Outlook's accessibility checker, how to add the alt text. Hopefully now you know how to do that, how to write descriptive links and structure content, and a small one change in your daily habit that will make all of this a lot easier and less overwhelming if we do one small thing each week to change our habits. And then once we change those habits, then it becomes second nature and we don't have to worry about it anymore. So I have 2 minutes left, Sherry. So I did good. So if you have questions, please feel free to contact me. My email and my contact information is in the presentation, and I am always available. So please feel free to check it out.
And there are more webinars coming up. There's the link in the chat for images. That's the alt tech long descriptions. That's on Monday the 22nd. There'll be one on how to make videos accessible, one on creating PDFs using Word and PowerPoint. We eventually will do some things on PowerPoint and Adobe, but we're going to start simpler. But I thank all of you for giving us your time on this Friday morning, especially when it's nice outside. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you again, and we will get the recording and the slides, although the link is here, out to you. Thank you so much.